who somehow feel threatened with a billy club, a gun, a taser, a knife, and a flashlight attached to their belt with a bulletproof vest, and officers backing them up. This senseless act cannot continue. We must start a serious conversation in this country and in this county about how we are being policed. The time for just running rogue is over. We are going to speak up every instant, every chance we get. And we're going to speak out about the injustices being tendered in our communities. Jermaine Massey is dead, killed at the hand of law enforcement while calling 911 for help. He was having a mental meltdown. You know the story. You should be outraged, because if we don't stop it now, it will continue to happen over and over again. And no family should have to bury their loved ones who are suffering in silence from a mental condition. This needs to stop. Lastly, we have called on the FBI to get involved in this investigation so that we might see justice prevail in this instant and in other instances. We're strong about this, and we're not going to stop. We're not going to back down. This cannot continue to happen in our community at all. With that, Jermaine Massey, Jermaine Massey, Jermaine Massey, Jermaine Massey was killed in his yard in front of his children, his fiancée, his community. We would be remiss if we didn't speak up and speak out about justice for Jermaine and for his family. Release the names of those officers. We will protest if you do not. Release the names of those officers. The family deserve to know. The community deserve to know. Thank you. I want to see anything.
I stand with Dr. Thompson and many others who are calling for justice for Jermaine Massey. As he stated, Jermaine Massey was having a mental breakdown at the time of his murder. If we look at the timeline of events, Jermaine Massey called the police for help. He asked repeatedly for assistance. He said he was having a mental breakdown. The verbiage was clear, but when they showed up less than 6.5 minutes later, Jermaine Massey was dead. We have to not only demand transparency, but also demand better training for these officers who answer the call. We in the African American community, the Hispanic community, and the low-income community are not receiving the same services that others receive when they're having mental health issues. We must demand that these officers know how to respond when we have someone in our community having a mental breakdown, because it's clear. The elephant in the room has been exposed. There was lack of training, lack of care, lack of consistency, lack of commitment. The community must demand answers. Not only must we demand transparency, we also have to hold those accountable who are in charge of these officers. Sheriff Will Lewis, he released a statement early in this investigation which painted a totally different picture of Jermaine Massey than what was true. There was never any negotiation. There was never any threat to the officers. If anyone's life was threatened, Jermaine Massey was threatening his own life. He was murdered in front of his 5-year-old son and his 2-year-old daughter. We must change that, because if not, this will not be the last time this happens in this community.
Can you speak at all to finding out the names of the deputies involved? What would that do for the case and the family? How would that help things along?
Well, number one, anytime an incident such as this happened, you deserve to know who shot and killed your relative. The community deserves to know. It is important that we activists know so that we can see if there has been patterns of disciplinary action or erratic behavior in their file, because those are the people who do not need to be policing our streets. If they're that trigger sensitive and that threatened, then they pose a greater threat to the community. And we represent the community. And we're not going to stand for continued senseless killings of young black lives. It's just not right. It's not fair. And this whole gamut of saying I feel threatened to avoid prosecutorial contact is wrong.
When Officer Alan Jacobs was shot, we knew the name. When Officer Alan Jacobs was shot, we knew the name of that teenager that shot him within the next day, and it was all over the news. So how is it right for them to know who shot one of theirs and we not know who shot our family member?
That's right.
That's not right. So the same way that they want answers, we want them to.
We deserve to know. We deserve to know. Also, I have an image in my head when I watch the body cam. My brother sitting on the porch, on the back of the porch, just sitting there. Officers come around, they talk to him, and the only thing they say was, Jermaine, put down a knife. He's sitting on his porch, back of his porch, just sitting there, sitting down. I don't know if he was praying or what state of mind he was in. The officers, they came, they didn't try to find out what mindset he was in. The only thing they came around, they was ready. They came around, they started tasing him. He's sitting down. Why are you tasing him while he's sitting? What was the purpose of you tasing my brother while he was sitting down on the porch? Why didn't y'all try to come up with any kind of other solution than just automatically just start wanting to get in trigger mode? Evidently, he needed help. He said on 911 call, I need help. On the back of his porch, he's sitting down, asking for help. And everything was ignored. Why? The officers, they sitting, still getting paid, doing anything. My brother is gone. He's not coming back. So where do we go from there? We do need the names. I think we deserve that. Me, my family, and I deserve it. The community deserve it.
Any other questions?
You mentioned the FBI. Have they responded yet, and what was that response?
Yes, our office have received a response. They are looking into this, and that we are sure that we'll get positive results. We have to stop this, and if it requires national attention to stop it, then that's what we'll do. We have to stop this.
And it also must be known that we can't allow the police to continue to police the police. They're doing their own investigations. So we have to call in other resources in order to help us get transparency and get clarity on the issue and on what happened on that day that Jermaine Massey was murdered. Because this is murder.
That's exactly what it is.
Also, Jermaine left behind 3 little kids. He have a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, and an 8-year-old who would never see their dad again. They asked me, Auntie, why?
His 5-year-old son thinks when we go to his grandmother's house that we're going to pick him up.
And then you have to speak to the fact these officers have received some type of counseling. This family have received none.
Exactly.
These children have received none.
That's right. I mean, they haven't even received an apology.
Not even an apology. And that is sad. His mother, his sisters, his fiancée, his mother-in-law to be, they deserve to know who murdered their son,
If not
their
for us,
boyfriend,
as children.
their dad. I said before in a press conference, his 5-year-old son, while we were in the backyard examining the yard and what happened, was walking with his head down, looking. We asked, what are you looking for? He said, I'm looking for my daddy's blood. An image in his head. Every time he closes his eyes, every time he exits the house to the backyard, he will see his dad's lifeless body laying right beside his back doorstep, at the hand of police officers who we teach are supposed to protect and to serve.
And understand this. I know that Dr. Thompson had mentioned the fact that Jermaine Massey is an African American. However, don't get it twisted. This is not about race.
Yes.
As you all may or may not remember, we took the same stance when Zachary Hammond in Seneca, South Carolina was murdered as well.
That's right. That's right.
We made the same demands for him and his family. And so, at the end of the day, it's about the injustice that was served to these families. True enough, another African American male was shot by the police. However, there are thousands that are killed on a yearly basis, that are injured on a yearly basis by the police.
Yes.
Many different races. So we take this stance with this family now, but don't think by any means that this is the only family that we will stand for.
That's right.
Jermaine Massey represents many in our community who suffer mental illness.
That's right.
He represents many in our community that need people to speak out for them. And so not only do we speak on this family's behalf, but we speak on the many other races, the many other individuals that are underserviced in this community.
That's right.
And so you mentioned this is kind of all-encompassing, and you talk about his 5-year-old son.
Right.
How hopeful are you for a different future of policing, and is this why you're going kind of about it?
We are going to continue to push for transparency. In these agencies, you have to start at basic training. Before you release a cop to the street, there's certain things that cop needs to know. One of them is how to deal with mental health issues.
Exactly.
Secondly, how do you approach black men?
Exactly.
How do you talk to them? How do you
Right.
deal with them? How do you interact with them?
I mean, you can never imagine the fear that we have. Even as a black female that I have when I'm stopped by the police. I've had some good encounters. I have. But I've also had bad encounters. I've been questioned because I drive a nice car. And so the thing about it is, you know, we totally have anxiety. We have different types of issues when we're addressed by the authorities. So they need to understand that. And not only should they train the Caucasian officers in how to deal with us, we need more African American officers to learn how to deal with us as well. Or if you're going to have white officers in our communities, teach them how to police our communities.
That's right.
How do they deal with us? How do they approach us? Not saying that we deserve some special type of merit, you know, but being black is not always a badge of honor. It's not our fault that we have to go through this and that we have to do this. However, it has to be addressed. And as a community, if others aren't willing to stand with us, if others aren't willing to fight, just imagine if it was your loved one. Just imagine that. We need the community to get involved and to understand that this is an issue beyond anything that we've addressed before.
That's right.
This is an all-encompassing issue where we have an African-American male who was suffering a mental breakdown, who was at the time calling for help. We're taught to call the police for help. We're taught that, but then when we call for help, we're executed. How is that fair?
We must continue.
You know, and we're told by the sheriff's department that he was wielding a knife. Will you comment on that?
Please
Yes.
release the video.
Yes. Tell him to release the video to the community.
Exactly.
The family have seen the video.
Yes.
And the attorneys have seen the video. And there is no knife in his hand. Now,
And if there is a knife, it's a very small. It's a very small.
and you cannot
there's
even
a small
tell
object
that
in his
it's a
hand. We
knife.
don't know what it is. It's not a butcher. It's not a butcher knife. His sister said he did have a small object in his hand. It definitely was not a butcher knife.
You can tell the butcher knife between a small knife.
We do know a Black and Mild unopened was laying beside his
Exactly.
body.
We know there was a cigar found beside his body. We do know that. We don't even know if they've ever found a knife.
But remember, he had a bum knee.
Right.
He was on crutches, sitting on the steps when they tased him.
So you're very adamant that there was no threat to officers?
Yes, there was no threat.
We're very adamant that the community needs to see the video, and we know that some will not agree with us. However, many will.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, he called them for help.
That's right.
He asked several times for assistance. He was having a mental breakdown. And if the scenario, if it was a different scenario, I've seen videos where they talk people down for hours and hours on edge.
Exactly.
Hours
There was
and
no
hours.
negotiation.
No negotiation.
Whatsoever.
There was no negotiation.
So to see that the ruling was that it was a murder, obviously for the bring back the you know that that's always a part of this process to see where it's going to go. What were your feelings hearing that ruling?
Hearing that, I was very hopeful. I was not with the family when they got the ruling prior to the coroner releasing it to the media, but I was present by speakerphone. So I did hear him say this, and I felt a sense of relief because finally things are moving in the right direction. So many times things are covered and pushed aside and shaded. But this time it makes us feel hopeful that we're moving in the right direction and that we are gaining momentum and traction in this event. Again, Jermaine posed no threat to any officer. He was sitting down, 125 pounds. So this should not have happened. And to hide behind political bureaucracy is wrong. Let this family know who killed their loved one, because that's what it was.
If she was on the other foot, they would want to know.
So let them know who did it, and we will go from there.
What are your hopes going from this point?
We will be, as I've said, asking the FBI to come in and get involved in this case. Secondly, we're looking for criminal charges, because that's the only way you're going to stop this type of behavior, is when people know they can actually be charged.
Also, our hope is the community. Also, our hope is the community gets involved and gets behind us on this. You know, small groups, we can make a lot of noise, but there is power in numbers. And so our hope is that the community understands that the different types of issues that we faced in this altercation that resulted in his death, and that they stand with us.
You know, just you wouldn't believe how many times I've heard from people, I want to stand, but I'm scared of that place.
Exactly.
Your tax dollars pay for this. You should not be afraid to come on these grounds, because they have such distrust of law enforcement in our community. And these instances don't make it any better. We have to know, we have to have transparency. And officers need to be held accountable just like anybody else. You cannot continue to bully us and vilify us like this. You're killing innocent, unarmed people for nothing. And it's all over the country. We must, listen, is there not a shred of humanity left? A shred of humanity. To where you hurt when someone else hurt. This family is hurting. They lost someone that they should not have lost. It was premature death. He should not have been removed from them, and especially not this way.
You asked a question about a knife. Let's say Jermaine had a small knife. If Jermaine had a knife, it's 4 officers. They have buddy clubs, they have tasers, they have body armor, they have guns. You got a guy that's 120 pounds soaking wet. Let's say he have a knife. So it takes 6 bullets, 7 bullets, 8 bullets to bring him down, 120 pounds. If he did have a knife, you threaten like that, but you officers, you're trained, you're skilled.
There was 9 holes in his body.
So why would it take so many? If let's say he had a knife, let's say the officer was threatened. You guys are trained to deal with this every day. That's your job. Protect and serve. You got body armor. You have body clubs. You have tasers. I mean, you have so much that'll help you when dealing with issues that's coming about. If he had a knife, what could he have done with it? He limping.
And I want to say in summation, I don't want this to get lost in the noise of what's already going on in this embattled office. We are still crying out for justice. We're still going to fight for justice. And we're still going to keep coming down here until justice is served. We will do this no matter who's in that office. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. We have to fight for justice. Justice for Jermaine. Release those names so that this family can help with closure. It will help. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You said there's one of the
Can I get everybody to kind of come closer up here around the family?